determined just to win. You let me on.
Once again, we would like to welcome particularly our guest to this 42nd edition of our lecture, the inaugural lecture series of the great Ladoke Akintola University of Technology. This morning, we shall be listening to an erudite professor of food science, Professor Mrs. Bolanle Aishat Akinwande, take us through the topic of nutritive and affordable foods for healthy living towards attaining sustainable development goals. And like we said, it is my pleasure to invite to the podium the registrar of this university, Dr. Kayode Akindele Ogunleye, to invite the VC to read the citation of the lecturer.
Acting Vice Chancellor, sir, it is my pleasure and privilege to invite you to declare this ceremony open and to read the citation of the inaugural lecturer. Please let's be seated.
Second inaugural lecture will be delivered by Professor Bolanle Aishat Akinwande. Thank you. Professor Bolanle Aishat Akinwande, the inaugural lecturer of today, is a pragmatic academic, a hard-working food scientist and nutritionist, a member of many students and leaders in agribusiness, and an expert in quality assurance in higher education. Bolanle Akinwande was born in the city of Warriors, Ibadan, Oyo State, over 5 decades ago to the family of late Alhaji Mashood and Alhaja Bilkis Oyeleye. She attended Ibadan Municipal Government Primary School, Ibadan, between 1974 and 1980 for her primary education, and Ibadan Grammar School, Ibadan, between 1980 and 1985 for her secondary education. After a brief work experience as clerical officer with the West African Examination Council, Ibadan, she proceeded to Federal Polytechnic, Ilaro, where she obtained Ordinary National Diploma, OND, in Food Science and Technology in the year 1989. Her Bachelor of Science, BSc, from the legendary Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and her Master of Science, MSc, from Nigeria's first university, the University of Ibadan, followed in quick succession in 1994 and 1996, respectively. lecturer, joined this Space Center University as an assistant lecturer in the then Department of Food Science and Engineering in 2001 and had a steady rise through the ranks until she was promoted to the chair of a professor of food science in the year 2014. This scholar has made sterling contributions to the growth and development of LAUTECH in several capacities through our many engagements in and around the academic environment and beyond, some of which are involvement as LAUTECH representative with the team of GOBEL, GLOBE, that is Global Food Security, Biomass Web Grant, funded by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, Germany, in 2013, which ensured that LAUTECH graduates were offered training opportunities in Germany. And the DIES, Dialogue on Innovation Higher Education Strategies program, for 30 institutions in Anglophone West Africa in 2013, which led to the establishment and implementation of internal assurance for LAUTECH, anchored by a unit she pioneered as director from 2015 to 2019. She expertly facilitated the training of many academic staff and graduate students of the defunct Food Science and Engineering Department at the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, IITA Ibadan, for quality research and network. The research teams she led were also winners of the first LAUTECH Senior Grant in 2013, among several others. Professor Akinwande has supervised many undergraduate and postgraduate students, and many are currently under her academic mentorship. She has published 69 journal articles in reputable peer-reviewed, high-impact international outlets, and has also participated actively in over 66 scientific meetings, conferences, workshops, and seminars in many parts of the world, promoting her research outcomes towards solving the problems of nutritional deficiencies through enhanced utilization of undercultivated local crops with great health benefits. In the process, she became a proud recipient of several notable recognitions and awards, some of which are Graduate Scholarship of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, 2002 to 2005, Postdoctoral Fellowship of African Women in Agricultural Research and Development Award, married to Mr. Akinwumi Abdulrashid Akinwande, and the union is blessed with 3 children, Nurat, Salimat, and Maria. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome Professor Bolanle Aishat Akinwande as she presents the 42nd inaugural lecture of this unique university.
Thank you, sir. The Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Heme Liasu, the Registrar, Dr. K. Ogunleye, other Principal Officers of the University, Dean of Faculty of Food and Consumer Sciences, Deans of other faculties, Professors and other members of Senate of LAUTECH, Heads of Departments and Directors of Units, Members of Staff of LAUTECH, Greatest Ladokites, distinguished invited guests and family members, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, in the name of Almighty Allah, Al-Hawalu the first, Al-Hahiru the last, Al-Zohiru the manifest, Al-Batinu the hidden, I glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this day. With all my limitations and shortcomings, He makes me to seem knowledgeable among reputable professionals. To Him alone be all praises and adoration for abundant grace, favor, mercy, and protection that I enjoy without limit. The first inaugural lecture in the Department of Food Science and Engineering was delivered by Professor Emo Ologude in 2016. The Food Science program metamorphosed in 2018 into Faculty of Food and Consumer Sciences with 2 departments, one of which is Department of Food Science. The first inaugural lecture in the Department of Food Science was presented by Professor Adeomowaye in 2019. I have the privilege of presenting the second inaugural lecture and the 4th in Food Science program. Today's lecture, titled Nutritive and Affordable Foods for Healthy Living Towards Attaining Sustainable Development Goals, was conceived in the last 1.5 years from 3 developments. The first was during symposium of rectors, vice chancellors, and presidents at the 11th International Conference and Workshops on Quality Assurance in Higher Education in Africa in 2019 at the National Universities Commission, Abuja. The university leaders were expected to establish how they have contributed to the attainment of sustainable development goals at institutional levels. The second was when top-notch NUC personnel noted on 2 different occasions that most academics are driven by publishing in high-impact factor journals, while it is not clear how impactful the publications are to the society. The third development occurred in April 2020 when Elsevier published the top 500 authors by scholarly output in Nigeria between 2014 and 2019. While some lecturers in the Faculty of Technology at University of Ibadan were congratulating successful authors, one lecturer asked specifically, and I quote, "While I celebrate these people, what is the practical implication of the publications on solving local problems and changing our story? Where are the ones addressing our local challenges?" I then thought that it is very important to showcase the relevance of academic activities for societal benefits. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the crux of this lecture is twofold. The first is to inform the audience that access to good food for good health is not expensive, but ignorance is what is expensive. The second is to demonstrate an example of how efforts from these reputable institutions have been making societal impact and contributing towards achieving global goals, especially goals number 1, 2, 3, and 4. My research interest on affordability of nutritive food for healthy living by the less privileged was perceived years back as a long lecturer while teaching students and interacting with people on the lower economic ladder. My usual question to many people is Is it cheap or expensive to eat good or healthy food? The general answer is that it is expensive, while I correct them that eating good food is cheap. God in his mercy has provided food that is enough to sustain us all, as supported by quotes from the two holy books, as indicated in the Quran, chapter 16, verses 10 to 11, and Matthew, chapter 6, verses 25 to 34 in the New King James Version. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my situation is an example of when life throws lemon at you, turn it into a lemonade. After the opportunity of having my PhD research work done at IITA Ibadan, I resolved to look inward and concentrate all efforts on value addition to local produce, especially indigenous and underutilized ones, with use of simple technology. I came up with a research focus when I won award postdoctoral fellowship in 2011, which is solving problems of nutritional deficiencies and the poverty trap of smallholder farmers through the enhancement of utilization of under-cultivated and neglected local crops that provide health benefits beyond basic nutrition. Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by 193 United Nations member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year 2030. Sustainable Development Goals number 1, 2, and 3 are linked with food security and healthy global world, while good health and nutrition are linked with SDG 4. SDG 1 calls for an end to poverty in all its manifestations by the year 2030. SDG 2 is meant to provide sustainable solutions to end hunger in all ramifications by 2030 and achieve food security. SDG 3 has targets of ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages. SDG 4 is meant to reaffirm the fact that education is powerful and proving means for sustainable development. The SDG index of 149 countries, comparing their current progress with a baseline measurement in 2015, indicated that Nigeria is ranked 141 with 36.1 success. Nigeria faces serious development gaps with healthy life expectancy of 49 years and with placement among the bottom 6 countries in the world, according to IMF 2019. In recognition of these challenges, Nigeria embraced the SDGs agenda. Although modest progress has been achieved across the goals and indicators, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and its health and socio-economic impacts will slow down progress on the achievement of the SDGs in Nigeria, according to Buhari 2020. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in this lecture, I will provide information on nutritional and health benefits of some local crops and cheap food crops, and demonstrate the interventions that I have made with these crops towards contributing to the achievement of SDGs numbers 1, 2, and 3 in the area of food security. It will be obvious in this lecture that access to healthy food for healthy living is cheap, but that it is only lack of or inadequate knowledge that is expensive. I wish to also provide evidence on how I have been able to contribute to the achievement of quality education as entrenched in Sustainable Development Goal number 4. Food is anything eaten or drunk to satisfy the appetite and meet physiological needs for growth, maintain whole body processes, and supply energy to maintain body temperature and activities. Healthy eating means eating a variety of foods that give the nutrients that are needed to maintain good health with a good sense of feeling and energy. Food security, as defined by the United Nations Committee on World Food Security, means that all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life, according to Mijil and et al. 2020. The 4 pillars of food security are food availability, access to food, utilization, and stability. Inadequate food intake is harmful to children's growth, intellectual development, and immune system, according to Pinstrop, Anderson, and Scholar 2001. Food security and nutrition for present and future generations are both integral parts of sustainable development goals. Indigenous plants are plants that grow spontaneously in natural ecosystem, while traditional foods are foods and dishes that have either passed or consumed through generations. They are nutrient rich with a history of being supportive of health and wellness due to their medicinal values. The local climate enables the cultivation of indigenous crops either for subsistence, income, or both. Mainstreaming indigenous crops into the food system of the communities that produce them offers opportunities to develop a sustainable and healthy food system. Foods are no longer evaluated only in terms of macro and micronutrient contents. There is global shift towards positive eating habits. Simply put, foods can be indicated as functional if they can serve as dietary supplement, and that in addition to their nutritional values, they can beneficially modulate body functions towards enhancing physiological response, in improving the state of health and well-being, or reducing the risk of certain diseases. There is a close association between traditional diet and traditional medicine in Africa, according to our 2018. The availability of health-promoting functional foods in the diet has the potential to help a healthier population. Insight into how the role of physiologically active food components from both phytochemicals and zoochemicals have changed the role of diet in health has been provided by Akinwande 2008. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to highlight some of my contributions on the use of functional indigenous and traditional food crops to improve the livelihoods and well-being of the populace. The global concern about food security and sustainable agriculture production among smallholder farmers spurred my interest in research activities that will provide solutions to increase the utilization options of indigenous crops. As a follow-up to the goal of Food and Agricultural Organization, which is to investigate alternative food sources to improve food security and widen world food baskets, it became pertinent to investigate the potentials of underutilized and neglected functional indigenous crops. Several of my research activities were carried out to address the possibility of developing desirable food products from locally available and cheap but nutrient-dense raw materials. Ogi is a fermented food product made from cereals, and it is obtainable traditionally in wet form. While old cereals are rich sources of vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, fats, oils, and protein, according to Attaining 2018A, the traditional process of making ogi involves the removal of bran, and this results in loss of its nutrient content but higher starch content. The protein-rich part of grain is mainly located in the tester and germ, which are usually sifted off during processing. The consequence of this is the prevalence of malnutrition in infants that are fed mainly with pap. Traditional processing of ogi without sieving of the bran is a means of retaining nutrients of the whole cereal. Wet milling of grains after soaking to a very fine particle size is encouraged for ogi production. We address the limitation of unpleasant color and aroma of ogi supplemented with ground okra planting seed with the addition of coloring agent and vanilla to mask the unpleasant color and flavor of untoasted okra seed fortified ogi. We, that is Abioye and others, substituted yellow maize with African yam bean seed in order to further produce nutrient-dense ogi from a cheap and locally available crop. My research efforts were able to address the usual deficiencies of sensory qualities of improved ogi with supplemented okra meal and underutilized African yam bean. Consumption of products from improved ogi from locally available crops makes it possible to produce nutrient-dense food product that is cheap and readily available. This is an opportunity to make the populace to have access to food products from cereals like maize, which is the third most produced crop in Nigeria, and thus prevent them from hunger and equally be healthy towards the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals number 2 and 3. Okra is an important economic vegetable crop that is popular as a vegetable for its nutritional value and health benefits. It contains valuable nutrients which play a vital role in human health and in human diet and health. We will be surprised to see the array of values that okra that will soon be very cheap now than give to our body. Several pharmacological properties of okra have been reported. It has a gastroprotective effect and anti-fatigue and antioxidant effects. It reduces neurological disorders and other neurodegenerative diseases related to oxidative stress, according to Maria et al. 2015. It can reduce blood glucose, corticosterone, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels elevated by acute stress. Okra is used in folk medicine as anti-ulcerogenic. Water-soluble polysaccharides from okra exerts anti-tumor activity, according to Zeng et al. 2014. We, in 2009, evaluated the use of 3 local storage structures, that is, pot-in-pot, raffia basket, and calabash, in storing fresh, immature okra pods. Adequate storage of okra will help in retaining essential nutrients that are needed for healthy living. Its regular consumption can be a factor in mitigating food insecurity and possibly alleviate malnutrition in developing countries like Nigeria. Since okra is very cheap with enormous nutritional and health benefits, it is advised to be included in individual menu towards the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals number 2 and 3. Mushrooms are macrofungi with distinctive and visible edible fruiting bodies that may grow above or below ground. They are among the man's earliest natural foods and yet the most neglected and underutilized foods in Nigerian food system. They grow wild and are sometimes cultivated. They also contain significant amounts of fibers, vitamins, and minerals. They have more antioxidants than fruits and vegetables. In addition to the nutritional values, some mushrooms have anti-tumor, antiviral, and hypolipidemic effects, which make them attractive functional foods. Some mushrooms can suppress cell proliferation and induce apoptosis and cytotoxicity in human breast cancer cells. They can be used as food to solve the problem of malnutrition. I studied the safety of 5 species of wild-growing mushrooms collected from the bush in Ogbomoso metropolis in Nigeria. The findings from the research indicate that consumption of the 5 species does not pose any danger in terms of heavy metals, and that they could serve as good sources of essential micronutrients, as reported by Akinwande in 2011. We looked into the possibility of using 3 local spices as flavor enhancers in the production of shelf-stable and ready-to-cook mushroom soup mix. The product is meant to just be reconstituted with water and boiled before being served as soup. There are samples of that product outside that are being exhibited, and we can check after the lecture. The aroma of the served reconstituted product from the sample with the combination of 3 spices had the highest ratings, as noted by Akinwande et al. 2007a. The inclusion of garlic in the soup mix led to reduction of more microbial load, and this confirms the antimicrobial activities of the local spices. Akinwande and Abegude in 2013 explored the possibility of replacing turkey meat and beef with mushroom in Nigerian pepper soup for enhanced nutrition. There was no significant difference between the chicken pepper soup and mushroom soup in all the attributes except aroma. The use of mushroom could thus be encouraged to replace meat in preparing pepper soup. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, mushrooms that are encouraged to be consumed are those that are already commercialized, grown by farmers and sold in the markets. The above and below ground mushrooms can serve as a cheap source of protein, especially to those who cannot afford animal protein. Mushroom cultivation, production, processing into food products are very promising for health and wealth initiatives. Thus, they are encouraged. These activities will contribute to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals number 1, 2, and 3. Legumes is a general term for the seeds of plants from the legume family. They are cheap sources of dietary vegetable protein and minerals when compared with animal products like fish, meat, and egg. Legumes can be supplemented with cereals to give a balance of amino acids called protein supplementation. Indigenous legumes like pigeon pea African yam bean, and Bambara groundnut grow wild and require no formal cultivation. They are drought tolerant, which makes them ideal crop in the era of climate change. These legumes are good protein foods and an important source of affordable alternative protein and other nutrients for people in the lower economic ladder where they are predominantly consumed. In recent times, indigenous legumes are not commonly consumed as in the time past due to their hard-to-cook phenomenon and inadequate knowledge of how to diversify utilization options. In order to establish the current perceptions and opinions of rural dwellers concerning the cultivation and consumption of indigenous legumes, we carried out a focus group discussion as a participatory assessment tool at Onilaru village in Orire local government area in Ogbomoso. All the participants were observed to be familiar with indigenous legumes. However, it was realized that both cultivation and consumption of the legumes had reduced for a very long time due to the associated processing drudgery. This finding triggered our research interest to look into possibility of reducing the associated drudgery of some hard-to-cook legumes in food processing, as noted by Akinwande et al. 2017. I and my research team worked on product development from indigenous legumes in 3 stages. The first was on product development and evaluation of their acceptability. Ready-to-eat breakfast cereal was produced from a composite of whole maize and dedicated African yam bean flour at different formulation ratios to produce a flake-like cereal product to mimic a popular and acceptable commercial corn flake product. The reconstituted product in sweetened milk after soaking for 10 minutes was liked by sensory panelists, as reported by Akinwande et al. 2014b. Development of shelf-stable intermediate flour premix was done with the addition of dry spices and seasonings. The premix is meant to require the addition of only water to produce a paste for moi moi, which is beans pudding, and akara, which is beans cake preparation at the domestic level, and this was done by Akinwande et al. In 2017. The underutilized legumes have the potentials of being in more diversified and sustainable food production system. Cultivation, production, and utilization of the crops will contribute to financial empowerment, while their access as food will be a solution to good nutrition and wellness. This will contribute in no small way to the socio-economic development of the rural areas where the legumes are abundantly available, and also help in the attainment of sustainable development goals number 1, 2, and 3. Roots and tubers are the set of plants that produce starchy roots, tubers, corms, stems, and rhizomes. Yam belongs to the genus Dioscorea. Maturity indices for harvesting yam tubers most times are subjective and non-quantitative. It became important to determine the relationship between food quality and tuber maturity in varieties of white yam to establish a rapid maturity index to determine the ideal tuber harvest time. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, with the view of attending to the global concern of establishing the time that yam tuber matures, I studied the properties of yam tuber and quality of food products at different stages of growth in 2002. As indicated in the publication of Akinwande et al. 2007b, Akinwande et al. 2011, Akinwande et al. 2007c, and Akinwande et al. 2008a, farmers can conveniently harvest yam tuber before complete foliage senescence occurs. A crude index to confirm this is an observation of yellow color in the lower leaf of foliage. The starch content of leaves could also serve as indicator for determining tuber maturity, since the tuber is matured when minimum starch content is obtained in the leaves. Bitter yam is a lesser known yam among the yam species and is underutilized. Bitter yam has crude protein content of 11.37% and contains essential amino acids, according to Halozzi et al. 2009. It has easily digestible starch compared to other yam varieties. It has desirable medicinal values and could be considered as possible health supplements. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we, Akinwande et al. 2008c, Akinwande et al. 2013a, Akinwande et al. 2014a, studied the potentials of bitter yam for industrial use. It is important to encourage cultivation and utilization of bitter yam to enhance the nutritional and financial well-being of the populace and the economy of the nation. Industrial application of bitter yam tuber for the diverse product is encouraged due to its nutrient profile and starch properties after pre-treatments. Cultivation and utilization of bitter yam can contribute towards achievement of Sustainable Development Goals number 1 and 2. Cassava is one of the major sources of carbohydrates and the fourth most important crop in developing countries. Most of the cassava that is produced in Nigeria is for domestic utilization, with limitations in the area of industrial exploitation. There is a cyclic glut in cassava marketing in Nigeria as a result of limited industrial application, which results in recurrent wastages and losses. In consideration of the high rate of perishability of cassava root and the associated processing drudgery of garri, we carried out research to add value to the cassava root to reduce post-harvest loss and enable use of shelf-stable chips as starting material for ease of garri processing. Most pharmaceutical industries in Nigeria rely on the importation of millions of tons of cornstarch as their major raw materials. Our research on pre-gelatinized cassava starch shows that it possesses good properties and of pharmaceutical excipients and compares with imported cornstarch as noted by Otutu et al. 2015 and 2017a. We also considered modification of cassava starch by acetylation for possible use in the food industry to replace imported stabilizers in ice cream production. Acetylated cassava starch compares with commercial ice cream. We investigated the possible use of native starch for the production of resistant starch as an alternative to a more expensive high amylose cornstarch. The findings indicated that cassava starch is suitable for producing resistant starch with isoamylase debranching, as reported by Abioye et al. 2017. Cheaper resistant starch can be produced from cassava roots. Conversion of relatively cheap and highly perishable cassava root into value-added products that have higher value and export potential will directly improve its economic value and thus contribute directly to the achievement of SDG 1. Sweet potato is among the world's most important, versatile, and underexploited food crops. Orange-fledged sweet potato, OFSP, is an improved sweet potato cultivar with enhanced micronutrient status through plant breeding. It is rich in beta-carotene, which is provitamin A, in contrast to the local varieties. In order to address the problem of post-harvest spoilage and also contribute to reducing the prevalence of vitamin A deficiency and malnutrition in sub-Saharan Africa, I and my research team tried to diversify utilization options of OFSP as food. Fresh tuber was processed to fried chips and shelf-stable flour. Acceptable chips, chin-chin, bread, and biscuits of good sensory qualities were produced from composite of wheat and OFSP flour. Reconstituted dough with good sensory ratings for appearance, moldability, and overall acceptability was also produced from a mixture of off-fermented OFSP flour and cassava starch, as recorded by Adedeji and Akinwande in 2019. Consumption of these products will enhance nutrition for young children and other vulnerable groups. This will make it possible for farmers to process the perishable product to a shelf-stable flour that would reduce post-harvest losses and make regular consumption of the functional food possible towards contributing to the achievement of SDGs 1, 2, and 3. Bananas, including desert banana, plantain, and cooking banana, are extremely important in developing countries due to their ease of cultivation and lower cost of production compared to other food crops. Mature unripe plantain is processed into chips by local processors using open sun drying to extend shelf life. But the critical control points that affect product quality and safety are not controlled. Solar tent dryer is an advanced technology of open sun drying. This covered structure gives protection against the limitations of open sun drying which is important in addressing food safety issues. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in order to attend to this important national challenge, we thought it right to establish the safety of solar tent and open sun-dried plantain chips through measurement of parameters that are of food safety concerns. Solar tent dryer can produce chips with lower microbial load, heavy metals, and mycotoxin content than open sun drying method. Its use in drying plantain chips and other agricultural produce is encouraged for the safety of human consumption. In order to reduce the post-harvest losses of plantain, conversion of supposed to be a waste overripe plantain to a value-added product of industrial potential was considered. We made effort to produce jam from overripe plantain. The products retained vitamins A and C, which were relatively stable during the 2-month storage period, as reported by Babarin et al. 2019. Since the high spoilage level of some bananas and their perishability are great challenges for farmers and marketers, the above indicated strategies for value addition to the crops will go a long way in the prevention of their wastages and post-harvest losses. Small and medium-scale industries could look into this potential of overripe plantain for a business venture and job creation, and thereby contribute to the achievement of SDG 1. Vegetable crops are grown in many parts of the world and contribute to nutritive diet of several households and income security. Traditional leafy vegetables are important components of human diet that provide a variety of nutrients. They have also been reported to be rich sources of health-promoting non-nutrient bioactive phytochemicals, according to Hubble 2005. They are thus vital for food security and wellness in Africa due to their availability and affordability, great nutritional value, chemotherapeutic and health-promoting properties, and other unique qualities, as noted by Award 2018. To promote the consumption of indigenous and underutilized vegetables, we determined the mineral profile of 8 wild-grown vegetables from southwest Nigeria. Findings from this study indicated that the indigenous vegetables that are not formally cultivated could be important in improving the micronutrient deficiency of low-income earners, as noted by Babalola and Akiwande 2013. The inclusion of more vegetables as part of a daily diet would likely increase their production capacity, access to food, and reduce the risk of some chronic diseases, since they provide nutrients that are vital for health and body maintenance towards attainment of SDGs 1, 2, and 3. Spices are very important as food and as medicine, and are used primarily for their flavor, color, or preservative effects rather than for any nutritional benefit. Survey and available literature indicate that spices and herbs play a significant role against viral infections. Certain spices and essential oils prolong the storage life of foods by their antimicrobial activity. Garlic and onions promote the bioavailability of iron and zinc from food grains. Garlic is among the most used vegetables for the treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus in diabetic women groups from the United States, as established by Johnson et al. 2006. To guide consumers in the choice between the two to be used more often for culinary purposes, Akiwande and Olatunde in 2014 compared the mineral profile and selected properties of 3 cultivars of onion and garlic. Information from this research suggests that both onion and garlic could be consumed generously in the diet, especially when in season, as a result of their nutritional and health benefits. Scientific research studies support the fact that onions and garlic are worthy of being eaten every day to provide optimum health benefits. We all know that the price of onion is already down, and purchase of 550 naira or 100 naira worth can serve the family. Ginger contains antioxidants and raw fibers. Its health benefits are attributed to its phenolic compounds with multiple biological activities, including antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, anti-cancer, neuroprotective, cardiovascular protective, among others. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we thought it wise to study the potential of the industrial application of ginger as a flavoring agent in food processing. My research team used ginger flour to flavor cassava flour supplemented with full-fat soybean flour to produce high-protein biscuits. It was observed that ginger powder as a flavoring agent effectively masked the beany flavor that is normally associated with soybean products, as noted by Akinwande et al. 2008c. Their use as flavoring and preservative agents could be further explored as additives in food product development, which could lead to increase in their cultivation and utilization towards achievement of SDGs 1 and 3. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I would like to give examples of the community outreach programs that this university has been involved in. The mission statement of universities in general is teaching, research, and services, as noted by Attaining 2020. Community outreach is an opportunity to connect the academic institution with the public through the dissemination of research findings. This synergetic relationship is vital in the spirit of town and gown, which enables the university to be a functional part of the community where they are located through such participatory activities, with the view to contributing to the attainment of SDGs 1, 2, and 3, directly and indirectly. I made several efforts towards reducing poverty through empowerment programs for the purpose of reduction of hunger through enlightenment programs on processing options of locally available and cheap food crops, and improved health through consumption of sustainable, nutrient-dense and functional foods from locally available crops. All these were done in collaboration with the extension agents of Oyo and Kwara State Agricultural and Development Programs for Extension Services. Hands-on training programs on food processing were also executed to create health and wealth initiatives among selected groups in the communities. I and my several research team members employed a 2-level training programs. The first training was done to provide information on alternatives to the usual cooking method of hard-to-cook indigenous legumes. This project was funded with the first University Senate grant in 2013. The second training was done to demonstrate the procedure for the formulation of intermediate flour recipe from hard-to-cook legumes and its use after reconstitution with water for akara and moi moi preparation. The project was funded by Tertiary Education Trust Fund Nigeria in 2015. A recipe book was developed which covers a range of all developed products from indigenous legumes and was distributed freely to the public, and as is being done today. Our multidiscipline and multi-research institutional research team on promotion and adoption of orange-fleshed sweet potato as crop and food in Oyo and Kwara states created awareness on the potentials of OFSP as a means of enhancing the livelihood and nutrition of the masses. The project was supported by the WAP Nigeria Competitive Agricultural Research Grant Scheme under the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria and with funding by the World Bank in 2013. Community service was offered by research team in the Departments of Food Science, Crop and Environmental Protection, and Agricultural Extension and Rural Development. The importance of eating OFSP tuber was discussed, and procedures for the production of chin-chin and chips were demonstrated to encourage its utilization. Creation of awareness through jingle and drama in 3 radio stations in Oyo and Kwara State on possible health benefits of eating OFSP was done for several weeks. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I would like to share some of my experience in community outreach engagements. It is very important to start any research that seeks to address societal problems with the communities that the intervention is meant for. Farmers and other rural people use innovation groups to express their interests and guide activities that are intended to benefit them. All the various activities were executed as community outreach programs demonstrated the relevance of this university in the community, thus fulfilling the essence of town and gown. Our research findings have been confirmed to be relevant to the society and with direct impact on the livelihood of the populace towards the achievement of SDGs 1, 2, and 3. In recent times, higher education systems in Africa are characterized by dynamic changes that relate in particular to an increasing demand for education service and increasing student enrollment rates. This development constitutes major challenges for maintaining quality standards in higher education. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I will use this opportunity to establish the importance of any sitting Vice Chancellor supporting application of members of staff for training and personal development. I came across the call for application on training on internal quality assurance in Anglophone West Africa while defending WAP grant in 2013 in Abuja. One core condition for the application was institutional support. I discussed this with the past Vice Chancellor, Professor Gbadegeshi, who pledged the required support. While some institutions were invited, I made it on behalf of LAUTECH through rigorous competition. Immediate benefit for the university was the development of the blueprint for the establishment and implementation of internal quality assurance, the outcome of which were development of policy on LAUTECH IQA and the establishment of LAUTECH Quality Assurance Unit. I subsequently became the pioneer director of the University Quality Assurance Unit from 2015 to 2019. I was part of the team that won DRD grant for DIS National Multiplication Training 2019 to 2020 program. 20 participants were trained, and LAUTECH was the host of the second workshop in 2020. I was later co-opted as a project consultant to participate in the workshop of Train IQA course in the Southern African Development Community region. I made several efforts to contribute to the professional development of individuals. The first was facilitation of graduate placement at IIT Ibadan for quality research. 3 academic staff were trained as graduate scholars for PhD between 2005 and 2014. 7 graduate students have also enjoyed training as graduate scholars from 2014 till date. Still on quality training, 7 graduate students, still on quality training, 4 postgraduate students enjoy funding of their research activities between 2014 and 2016, while 13 undergraduate students also enjoyed funding of their research activities between 2013 and 2014 from different research grants that I and my team members secured. My contributions in this area were done to increase the pool of quality assurance experts on internal quality assurance and also enhance quality research of postgraduate students in higher education institutions towards achievement of quality education, which is SDG 4. It is no longer a news that COVID-19 pandemic has spread and affected several continents, including Africa, in a variety of ways. It was envisaged that African continent, being the poorest of all the continents in the world, with the most vulnerable population to infectious diseases, will be substantially affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. Apparently, this prediction would appear to be wrong, as the African continent has been the least affected in terms of mortality rates. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, while these moves are timely and have been largely successful, it is important to emphasize the role of good nutrition in boosting the immune system. The role of several traditional crops such as okra, mushroom, OFSP, and the spices, which are some of the crops that I have used in my research activities in the last 2 decades, cannot be overemphasized. The content of vitamins and zinc in okra may hold some promise for the treatment of COVID-19, as noted by Zabetakis et al. 2020. While all these crops listed above have shown promising potentials to boost the human immune system and may partly explain the very low mortality rate as mentioned earlier, it will be necessary to carry out future studies using empirical data to further establish this undeniable role of these traditional and indigenous crops in combating COVID-19. Therefore, one of the import of my research findings and this lecture is a wake-up call to all relevant stakeholders to initiate and fund multidisciplinary researches into the potentials of Nigeria's food systems in combating COVID-19 pandemic and similar viral infections using traditional, conventional, and lesser-known food crops. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, malnutrition, hunger, poor health, and starvation still rank high as some of the world's greatest challenges. Due to the fact that majority of the world's hungry people live in developing countries, it is very important that we reorient our palates and embrace all available sources of nutritious food and maximize their use. Underutilized traditional foods can contribute to the mix of affordable and nutrient-dense food options. Cheap foods that are overlooked are usually what are needed to be consumed for good nutrition and healthy well-being. However, as a note of caution, excess of everything is bad. If certain foods like spices could be taken for health benefits to remedy illness, such should be taken with moderation. Have been privileged to provide sufficient information that good food for good health could cheaply be obtained from sources that abound in our immediate environment. Many people in Ogbomoso here eat a lot of banku and dokunu, and the cost is low. We can now see what benefits those things are, in addition to the more expensive ones. I provided information on our multidisciplinary and multi-institutional research and collaboration with Oyo and Kwara State Agricultural Development Programs. May I say that this issue of collaboration is a serious one, and it is one of the tools that is currently being used by NUC for program accreditation. I also gave examples of interventions that I and my research teams have made to fulfill the second and third components of the mission statements of university and for town and gown. These are means of verifying some examples of the roles that our institution, LAUTECH, plays in contributing towards the achievement of SDGs number 1, 2, and 3, especially in Nigeria. I have been able to chronicle some of my activities to increase the pool of quality assurance experts on internal quality assurance and also enhance quality research of postgraduate students in higher education institutions towards the achievement of SDG 4. Evidence-based activities on internal quality assurance in universities have now been included as one of the tools for program accreditation by National Universities Commission. That is the second one. This lecture would have instigated research ideas on nutritional and affordable traditional foods in eminent researchers and academic scholars. The clock is ticking, and there is less than 10 years left to achieve the 17 Global Sustainable Development Goals and transform the planet. I would like to join my fellow academics and researchers in different disciplines to strive more in carrying out research activities that will contribute towards the attainment of SDGs. Each department and faculty can make a contribution to achieving any of the 17 SDGs. We have the potential to make great strides until 2030. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, distinguished guests, getting this far has not been on a platter of gold, but with the support of God and those He used for me. First and foremost, I express my profound gratitude to Almighty Allah for His unlimited favor and mercy, who makes this lecture possible at His own ordained time. I am eternally grateful to my parents, late Alhaji Moshood, and my aged mother, Alhaji Abilikis Oyeleye, for the parental love and care and for the educational legacy. I appreciate my father's unique love. The roles and sacrifices that my mother made at crucial time in my life meant so much to my success. She taught me the virtues of a responsible wife. I also extend my gratitude to my late parents-in-law, Mr. Jimo and Mrs. Eunice Akinwande, for accepting me in the first instance and for their love. My immense gratitude to my teachers from basic to tertiary institutions. Those of prime importance are my mentors and role models, my sources of inspirations, on whose back I ride on to get doors opened. They include Professor Akanbi, Professor Akingbala, my MSc supervisor, Professor Adeyemi, my PhD supervisor, and my God-sent father, who accepted to supervise my PhD work when I almost lost a golden opportunity of research placement at IITA Ibadan. Others are my IITA-based PhD supervisors, Dr. Roberta Sieju and Dr. Mazia Dixon. The two of them are seated here. The two have been my strong supports that facilitate training opportunities for LAUTECH postgraduate students at IITA Ibadan. I am mostly indebted to Professor Awo, my official award mentor of inestimable value, who taught me the skills of grant-winning proposal writing in 2011 in the course of award fellowship training. My one-hour interaction with him translates to one-year academic training session. I thank Mama Adeyemi for valuable and timely advice, Mama Akingbala for treating me like a child, and Mama Awo, an outstanding role model that I treasure. I am most grateful to Professor Ruth Onyango in Kenya for the global proverb publicity she did for me in 2015 through Hajj Fund. I would like to express my profound appreciation to our former Vice Chancellor, Professor Ogbade Geshin. His regime provided an enabling platform for me to exhibit my academic potentials, which started with the university-wide award fellowship sensitization seminar that I organized in 2012. His belief in internal quality assurance made it possible for me to become a quality assurance expert. He appointed me as the acting head of department and also pronounced my professorial chair. I'm thankful to him for believing in me and by appointing me as the pioneer director of Quality Assurance Unit. I am immensely grateful to the facilitator of my appointment at LAUTECH, Professor Tijani, and Professor A.M. Salau of blessed memory, our former Vice Chancellor. I wish to use this opportunity to thank the entire LAUTECH Muslim community for the support and large turnout at the Quranic recitation and Thanksgiving service for my professorial chair. I thank all the foundation members of Ittihad from where my spiritual journey began. I'm grateful to the former deans of engineering, to the former deans of Faculty of Engineering and Technology for their diverse roles in my career life and successful accomplishments. I equally recognize the incumbent dean and all the Faculty of Engineering and Technology staff. My sincere appreciation to all members serving and retired of the defunct Food Science and Engineering Department. The academic, technical, and administrative staff members have all made a peaceful working environment possible for me. I'm grateful to everyone for rising up to support me for the success of this lecture. I also recognize and appreciate NAWAC's executives and all members. I acknowledge with gratitude all staff members that support the course of Faculty of Food and Consumer Sciences from inception. I thank Professor Ologunde for always believing in me. I appreciate his innumerable support on several occasions in the past. I am equally most grateful to him in the capacity of Vice Chancellor for giving me the privilege to present the 42nd inaugural lecture series. I am thankful to Professor Adebayo, our former Deputy Vice Chancellor, with whom I worked with directly as the pioneer and former Director of Quality Assurance Unit. I cannot forget all his support in that capacity. I recognize wonderful, inestimable, intelligent, and hardworking 7 pioneer faculty members of LAUTECH Internal Quality Assurance Team that served with me as the pioneer director. I dedicate all my successes and achievements in that capacity to all of them. I equally appreciate the administrative staff that worked with me. I'm grateful to the university registrar, the bursar for their support while in the office. I equally recognize the university librarian. I appreciate our university senate, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, and World Bank through WAP Nigeria for the grants that were used for the project, especially for community outreach engagements. I render special appreciation to my research teams. I appreciate the publicity roles of staff of Public Relations Unit, especially Mr. Fadeyi. I thank several of my collaborators, Dr. Babalola, Dr. Awoyale, Professor Tegbayo, for diverse collaborative research. I recognize Mrs. Ogunwobi and Mr. Ajao of OISADEP for numerous assistance on extension activities. I appreciate all academic staff of Food Science and Technology Department, FUNAB, for the academic relationship, and several other sister universities that have recognized me for some assignments. My unreserved gratitude to all the academic staff of Food Technology Department, University of Ibadan, for approving my sabbatical placement. I appreciate Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Uzo Peters for their immense assistance to my family at all times. Dr. Folake Samuel, who is mostly treasured for encouraging and supporting my application for award fellowship in 2010. It made a world of difference to me, and for research collaboration. All award staff are appreciated mostly for the workshops on mentoring and scientific training programs. That is the genesis of what I've been able to do now. I also cherish the relationship that I have with the award fellows. I am immensely grateful to the Deputy Executive Secretary of NUC, Dr. Suleiman Ramon Yusuf, for the Train IKA mentoring and other assistance when it mattered most. I appreciate all pioneer members of WACWAN for the mandate of being a steering committee member. Very important to me is the friendship experience of the Grade 5 from UNILAG, OAU IFE, UI, and UI during the 2 years of Train IQA at different locations. I equally appreciate my DICE National Multiplication Training Team, 3 of them. I thank Petra Pisto for facilitating my international collaboration with the University of Potsdam, and Frank Niedermeyer for the consultancy opportunity in the SADC Quality Assurance 2020 to 2021. Highly prized to me are my postgraduate students that I was privileged to supervise, and also my current students. My numerous undergraduate students are equally appreciated. I also cherish my mentees at formal and informal levels. All of them made replication of myself possible and have made me an achiever with their productivity and achievements. I am immensely grateful to every other people that came together as a group that are worthy of note but are too numerous to list, for the commitment to support and celebrate me at this most important lifetime event. I thank all the members of staff of the new Faculty of Food and Consumer Sciences and Department of Food Engineering for the sincere love and support to make sure that this event is most successful. I extend my gratitude to my friends of inestimable value, Mrs. Abdulkarim and Mrs. Oshuala, for their pure love like family members. My relationship with my other friends is mostly cherished. Worthy to be appreciated also are my egbons. They are seated here. My world-rated Ibadan Grammar School 85 set, Federal Polytechnic Ilaro set, 87 set, Obafemi Awolowo University 94 set, and University of Ibadan 96 set classmates are most appreciated for diverse roles during my academic journey and for sustainable friendship till the present moment. Ogun ọmọdé tí ń ṣeré fún ogún ọdún nísìn. 20 children now play for 20 years nowadays, as against the old sayings, and this is courtesy of social media. I recognize all the professional members of Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology, especially the past presidents. I have here seated Mr. Wole Toye, a past president of NIFT, and Professor Sonny, who sent representative, and the incumbent president, and all other members of body of fellows. The NIFT Western chapter is well represented, and the Ogbomoso zonal unit also has large representation here. I thank all my elderly associates who did not see me to be too young to relate with. Present here with us is the CMD of UCH, Professor J.C. Abiodun Otegbayo. The wife of the Deputy Governor of Oyo State, Her Excellency, Professor Amdalat Bolanle Olaniyo, was dressed up to attend this lecture today. Unfortunately, she was bereaved and she couldn't make it. She, however, sent representation. I have here seated President of the Nutrition Society of Nigeria. God will bless you all for the love that you all have for me. I wish to specially thank Professor Awo, Professor Taiwo, Professor Deku, Dean of Pharmacy of UI, and Dr. Babarinde and Dr. Alade for the painstaking efforts in reading through and for valuable inputs. Of special note are Professor Adeyemi and Dr. Oyeyinka for correction and supply of reference materials. The quality of this lecture note is made possible due to all their efforts. I thank Mr. Makinde for proofreading the manuscript. My unquantifiable gratitude to all my loved ones that are too numerous to mention their names, that supported me in diverse forms that I least imagined. Most important are physical, moral, financial, and prayer support for the success of today. I thank everyone that graciously attended this lecture amidst several other contending engagements, and all those that love me dearly, openly and remotely. To God be the glory for my wonderful siblings. Sincere gratitude to my senior sister and brother for spiritual, moral, and spiritual support and financial support over the years. They have both been my ejikatiko jekashoye, my pillar of support. My other sisters and brothers, together with their spouses, are cherished for always rendering helpful hands. I say thank you to all my paternal uncles and aunties and cousins who have been of great value to me. I recognize all my nieces and nephews and their spouses. I recognize and appreciate all my in-laws and their spouses for their love in different ways. My success has been possible with the support of my husband, Abdurrashid Akinwumi Akinwande. I could get this far because he gave me peace of mind and a stable home. He is my jewel, my pillar of support for sustainability, survival, achievements, and successes. His patience is unequaled, and he is a man that any woman meant to be successful would desire to have. He made several selfless sacrifices for the sake of our children by holding forth in my absence. I love him truly, and I am immensely grateful, which I am sure he knows. I thank my wonderful children, my angels, Nurat, Salimat, Miriam, and by extension, Faizat. I wonder where I can start from to appreciate their understanding for just the weekend motherly roles. The super sacrifice in the course of preparing for this inaugural lecture is most appreciated. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I finally return all glory and adoration to Almighty Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, for my lifelong journey.